Welcome to Able Skills Plastering from our series of DVD tutorials. In this DVD, you will be taught all the various stages and techniques involved in preparing, boarding, bonding and plastering a room. Once complete, you will be able to take on a wide range of plastering jobs with confidence. This DVD is broken down into the following stages. We recommend you watch every stage, and once familiar with the techniques provided, you can simply use the DVD's navigation system via the main menu to view the stages and recap on any necessary areas. To put up plasterboard, you will need the following items: a pencil for marking out measurements on the plasterboard, a tape measure for measuring all areas of the workspace and plasterboard, a level. This is to ensure that all work surfaces are level and straight, a Stanley knife for cutting the plasterboard, a hammer and clout nails. This is for fixing the plasterboard to the wooden framework, a clad saw when the edges of the plasterboard need to be removed, a rasp. This is for rasping the edges of the plasterboard to achieve smooth and clean edges, a trestle for extra height to plaster ceilings and high walls. Before you begin any job, you must analyze the area in which you intend to plaster and prepare the surface accordingly. On a great deal of new projects, you will find it necessary to board out the walls and ceilings with plasterboard, which can then be directly plastered to. For plastering to an existing surface, prepare it using PVA Unibond. Mix 50-50 with water and apply to surfaces. This reduces the risk of cracking. Please note, apply the plaster straight after you have applied the PVA. Do not allow the PVA to dry. For this tutorial, we will be working with a new project, and it will take you through the process of boarding out the walls and bonding surfaces where necessary. Plasterboard has two distinctive sides. One side is darker than the other, and you will need to use the lighter side. This means that when you fix the plasterboard to the walls, the surface showing needs to be the lighter side. You will need to board up your ceiling first, and then proceed to your walls. To start, take your tape measure and measure the sizes of your ceiling. If you are unable to cover the length of a wall or ceiling with a single panel, then you will need to measure and fix the plasterboard between suitable joists. Start from the corner of a wall and measure to the center of an appropriate joist. Once we have our measurements, we apply it to the plasterboard. First, we mark the length 3 times on the plasterboard with a pencil. One at the top, one at the bottom, and one in the middle. We will then take our level up our 3 points and mark a straight line through these points. We then take our Stanley knife and set up our level along the pencil line. Minding our fingers, we run a straight cut through the plasterboard. Then we move to the other side of the board. Gently fold the plasterboard towards you by kicking the cut line, and then run a cut with your Stanley knife straight up through the plasterboard. Any lumps or rough edges on the plasterboard need to be removed using the rasp. Lightly run the rasp up and down, cleaning the edge of the board until you are happy with the finish. We recommend you wear steel toe-cap boots throughout, as plasterboard panels are extremely heavy, and having unprotected feet will soon put an end to your job in the event of an accident. Now we can fix the board to the ceiling. To fix the plasterboard, simply line the board to the wall, and using the clout nails, hammer the board to the timber frame, starting in the corner of the plasterboard. You would then space out your nails roughly every 14 inches, making sure that there is no movement in the plasterboard. These are the guidelines on how to put up plasterboard, whether it is your ceiling, or your walls. So, to recap, measure your wall. Apply those measurements to your plasterboard. Mark a straight line on your plasterboard. Run a cut through the line. Go to the other side of the plasterboard and give it a break. Run your blade up the back. Use a rasp to clean up the edge. Place your board into the work area. Nail the plasterboard on in 14-inch gaps. For this section, you will need tin snips for cutting angle beads, angle beads for covering the corners, bucket trowel, plastering trowel for spreading our plaster, hawk, this is to hold our plaster on while we work, plastering stand and spot board for holding our plaster mix, plaster bucket for mixing your plaster, drill and paddle for mixing in your plaster and water, a bucket of clean water, and finally bonding plaster. Make sure you keep your equipment clean and tidy on site. Your trowels must be rust-free, and keeping your equipment well maintained is essential to working well on a job. Once you have boarded out both your walls and ceiling, on many occasions you will find other obstacles such as boxed-in pipes or windows, which require additional preparation before any plastering can take place. In this section we will show you how to prepare these areas using beads and bonding plaster. This is a plasterboard bead. These get attached to our external corners. They are metal strips which are used to form straight edges. Starting at the window, we measure out the height of the inside length and measure accordingly on the plaster bead. Taking the snips, we cut towards the internal angle of the bead from both sides, leaving the centre intact. All that's left to do now is to bend the bead until it breaks. Prepare all your angle beads in the same way, measuring, cutting, and checking that all vertical and horizontal beads fit snugly into place. Be careful not to run your hand or finger over the end of your cut bead, as these could be very sharp. Always handle the beads from their body and with care. Once all beads are cut to size, we can now set them in place. To do this, we need our bonding mix. The bonding mix is the undercoat. This is a thicker plaster for setting the beads. This is also used to cover poor, undulated surfaces, to get the area prepared and even, ready for the top coat or finishing plaster. To mix our plaster, we must now get our mixing bucket, bucket of clean water, drill and paddle, bucket trowel, and our bonding plaster. We start with a half bucket of clean water poured into the mixing bucket. We then add the bonding plaster to the bucket and start to mix with the drill and paddle, slowly adding more plaster as we go. This is the same technique we would use for finishing plaster, although bonding plaster requires less mixing as the plaster is used as an undercoat and has a much rougher finish. When mixing our plaster, whatever amount of water we start with, by the time the plaster is in, the final amount doubles. This applies for bonding and finishing plaster. In other words, half a bucket of water gives a full bucket of mix. You may find sediment near the top of the bucket. This is not mixing in with the rest of the bonding plaster, so you want to run your trowel around the rim of the bucket and place it back into the main mix. When mixing any plaster, take your time. Do not try and add too much plaster too quickly. We're looking for a smooth consistency throughout, so simply add a handful of plaster at a time whilst continually mixing to end up with a perfect mix. Once the bonding plaster is mixed thoroughly, we must then wet the spot board. Once wet, we now pour the bonding plaster onto it, like so. You will notice that the bonding plaster has a rough finish. This allows it to spread on much thicker, up to 1.5 inches at a time. Using your trowel, pick up and rub a little bit of plaster around your hawk. This is so that when you go to put the working plaster on your hawk, it stabilizes and does not slide off. What we're going to do here is apply the bonding to the external face of our work. We need an even amount of plaster going from top to bottom. Here we're applying the bonding roughly 1 inch at a time. We then attach the bead gently to the external edge. Tap the bead in until it is stable. Use the long level on the side of the bead to make sure it is completely vertical. Run the level down the bead, and if the bead is not level, adjust it by tapping it like so. We can now take away any plaster from the bead. Once you have finished, run your finger or thumb down the edge of the bead to keep it clean. We now use the same method to attach all our other beads to the other external edges. Now we're going to put beading up on the inside window edges, flush to the 2 outside beads. Same as before, we smear the plaster on the front surface going away from the edge. Then we take our bead, which had already been cut to size earlier, and place the bead on the edge, tapping it into place. Once again, use the level to check the bead is vertical. Once level, take away any excess plaster using the trowel. And finally, clean the surface of the bead with a wipe of the hand. Now continue to do any other external edges in exactly the same way. Add bonding plaster, set the bead, tap into place, and wipe off excess and clean the bead. Once this is done, we take our long level and place it horizontally across all our beads. This is to ensure that all the beads are flush with each other. Gently adjust the beads until they all make contact with the level. We recommend you get yourself both a small and a large level. The smaller level is ideal for inside windows or tight spaces, whilst the larger level is ideal for checking larger spans. All the tools used on this DVD are available on the Able Tools website at www.abletools.co.uk. With the top and bottom edges of the window, exactly the same process is used. By following these simple steps, you will be able to set beading in any awkward areas, ensuring that when you come to add your finishing plaster, your surfaces and edges are all neat and clean. Once all the beads are set, check all are level and then trowel the bonding plaster onto the remaining surface to ensure a good, clean underlay ready for the finishing plaster. The bonding plaster can be put on the surface about an inch in depth, and don't worry too much about the quality of the finish. This is where our feather edge comes in. This is used to rule off the undercoat, making it level with the beads we have just set. The feather edge has two distinct sides. With the thin edge to the wall, rest it on your beads, and with your hands underneath the feather edge, run it up in a straight line, making sure the feather edge stays on the beads to rule it off square. If you find any holes or undulations, simply fill these back in and continue to add the bonding plaster over the rest of the surface in the same way as before. Once again, don't worry about the finish. Simply continue to use the feather edge and fill in any gaps, reusing the feather edge as necessary. For smaller areas, you could simply use your trowel up against your set beads. Or you could continue using the feather edge on all areas until you end up with a nice clean surface, which after 24 hours will be ready to plaster onto. Bonding and beading would be used for all awkward areas, including boxed-in pipes, window openings, and any external edges. Bonding would also be used on poor surfaces to give a good undercoat ready for plastering. For Artex ceilings and walls, simply scrape off the Artex and plaster directly over with the finishing plaster. For this stage you will need tape, this is to cover your joints, and a Stanley knife for cutting the tape. After you have fixed all your plasterboard and prepared the more complex areas and allowed to dry for at least 24 hours, we are now ready to do our final preparation of our surfaces. This is to tape any joints between plasterboard panels to ensure no cracking occurs after plastering. To do this, take the tape and run this along the centre of all your joints. Make sure the tape is firmly stuck onto the plasterboard. Again, run the tape through all joints and run your fingers along the tape so that it is tight on the plasterboard. And once you reach the end, use a blade for a nice clean cut. Finally, go over all the nails that were hammered in and make sure they are flush with the plasterboard. This is so that when we're plastering, our trowel doesn't catch any of the clout nails. Before you begin mixing and plastering, we recommend sheeting and covering your room and surrounding areas. As well as dust and water, mixed plaster can also splatter, and if left to dry can be extremely difficult to clean and remove, especially from carpets and textured surfaces. You will need bucket trowel, plastering trowel for spreading our plaster, hawk, this is to hold our plaster on while we work, plastering stand and spot board for holding our plaster mix, plaster bucket for mixing your plaster, drill and paddle for mixing in your plaster and water, a bucket of water, and finally multi-finishing plaster. After successfully preparing all your surfaces, you are now ready to plaster the walls with the final finishing plaster. There are 6 phases which must be followed when plastering with your finishing coat. They are Phase 1, the first coat, Phase 2, the second coat, Phase 3, the dry trowel, Phase 4, the wet trowel, Phase 5, the second wet trowel, and Phase 6, the final dry trowel. Phases 1 and 2 are the only phases in which plaster is applied to our surfaces. It is important to get these right, and then use the final 4 phases to smooth and perfect the plaster's finish. Mixing our plaster. Before we begin any of our phases, we must prepare and mix our plaster. Pour half a bucket of clean water and half a bag of finishing plaster into your mixing bucket. Take the drill and paddle and start mixing up the contents. As you're doing this, start adding more plaster to the bucket. Continue to mix with the drill and paddle. And slowly keep adding the finishing plaster. Try not to add too much too quickly. Unlike the bonding plaster, the finishing plaster must be mixed thoroughly, and there must be no lumps or unmixed plaster, or this will affect the finish of our work. As with the bonding plaster mix, using half a bucket of water initially means that by the end of the mix we will have a full bucket of plaster. Remember to use the bucket trowel to run along the rim of the bucket and mix in any excess which has formed. As you get close to completion, we're looking for a smooth, creamy consistency. If you find your plaster is still too watery, just add a handful of plaster at a time. Continue to mix until you have a smooth consistency with no lumps. After you are happy with the mix, make sure you clean your equipment whilst the plaster is wet. This will ensure you are ready to mix your next batch and makes cleaning and maintaining your equipment much easier. Once you have made your mix, you have an average of 40 to 45 minutes to use it. Remember, if you're in a warm or cold environment, this will change accordingly. If you find your plaster starts to go off, mix a new batch. Do not try and use plaster that is already going off. Once this is done, take your stand and place it out of the way from your work area and add your spot board. Take a brush and a clean bucket of water and lightly wet the top of the board. Now take your bucket of finishing plaster and carefully pour it onto your board. Don't pour it all out at this stage. You only need an amount sufficient enough to work with. Then, take your hawk and trowel, and using your brush to wet the surface of your hawk, rub your trowel across the hawk, making sure that both are clean. Take a bit of the plaster off the spot board onto your hawk, and using your trowel, run the plaster off and back on your hawk. With our mix complete and our equipment and work area prepared, you can now cut a piece of plaster out of the mix and onto the hawk. By moving the plaster back and forth from trowel to hawk, this allows air to escape from the plaster and provides easier application. If you are working with plastering ceilings and walls, at this stage you want to be working on the ceiling, starting from the left corner. Run your trowel back and forth, applying the plaster in a straight line. The coat needs to be roughly 3 to 4 millimeters in thickness. Bring the trowel out from any internal angles and continue from the corner, spreading the plaster straight back, like so. You will notice that lines of excess plaster will appear on the work. Do not try to fix at this phase. Once we have finished applying the first coat, we can then remove the lines and tighten the plaster. You don't want to try and do too much at this phase, or it will only get worse. The finish will improve after each and every phase. Carefully moving yourself across the ceiling, simply add the plaster evenly, going backwards and forwards with your trowel. The standard size of a trowel is 11 inches. For novices, we recommend that you use a trowel size no larger than 14 inches and suggest sticking with the standard 11-inch trowel. Continue applying the first coat in this way until the whole area you are plastering is covered. As soon as our first coat is finished, we can then proceed straight away before the coat dries to remove all the lines on the surface, including any lumps or holes. To close the plaster in, we start the trowel face in an open position, and as we feed the plaster in, the trowel is slowly closed off and removed. Repeat this motion across the whole ceiling. Once you have completed the first coat on your ceiling, you can now move on to your walls. When you plaster your walls, you should start from the midpoint and work upward, applying a nice even coat over the top half of your wall before moving on to the lower half. Always work away from the corners and edges. The reason for doing the ceiling first and then working onto the top half of the wall is to work downwards, avoiding us dropping any excess or waste plaster down onto a finished surface. Throughout the plastering, you must follow this same pattern, working on the ceiling from left to right, the top half of your wall from left to right, and then finish on the bottom half from left to right to complete the wall. Continue to plaster other areas in the same way until all have their first coat. When working on all other phases, you must continue to work in this same pattern to ensure the drying time is uniform throughout. So, as mentioned, with the top half covered, proceed to apply your first coat to the lower half of the wall in the same way. You can leave a small gap at the bottom of the wall, as this will later be covered by a skirting board. If there are any bits of sediment on your plaster, simply remove them from your work. Continue until you have completed the whole work surface. The most important thing about the first coat is that you must have full coverage of the work surface. Once this is done, leave around 20 to 25 minutes for the plaster to settle before moving on to the next stage. Before each phase, make sure that all your tools are clean and that we have a nice working area. Before applying the second coat, what you need to do is finger the area that you first started with and see how the plaster reacts. If the plaster starts popping out and leaving marks, then you know that the plaster is still too wet and you need to leave it for a little longer. Applying a second coat whilst the first coat is still too wet would mean that you would be removing the first coat as you apply the second. If you find that you leave a fingerprint with no pot marks, then you know that the plaster is sufficiently dry and you can go on to the second coat. During this second phase, we apply the plaster in exactly the same way as we did for the first coat, except this time we apply a slightly thinner coverage to the wall, applying a thickness of around 2 to 2.5 millimeters for the second coat. So, applying a nice coat evenly across the ceiling, coming perpendicular to the wall at the angles and corners, and then straightening it all up in clean strokes. Then moving our body horizontally whilst we work vertically across the ceiling and wall. Move uniformly so that you don't miss any areas, and also stick to a single path of movement. What we mean by this is that you need to stick to a routine so that the path in which you plastered for the first coat is exactly the same for the second coat. This allows the plaster the same amount of time to dry, from the end of the first coat to the end of the second coat. Once again, leave this second coat to dry for approximately 25 minutes, in the same way that you did for the first coat. So, to recap on our first two phases. 1. Cover any areas and surfaces to keep them clean. 2. Mix your plaster. 3. Apply the first coat at a depth of 3 to 4 millimeters, working from left to right, starting from the ceiling, going down to the top half of the wall and ending up with the lower half of the wall. 4. Run over to remove any excess lines. 5. Clean your tools and allow the plaster to dry for 25 minutes. 6. Finger the completed areas to check the first coat has gone off. 7. Apply the second coat at a depth of 2 to 2.5 millimeters, following the same pattern as used for the first coat. And finally, 8. Clean your tools and leave to dry for a further 25 minutes. It is essential that the trowel you use for this stage is clean, completely smooth, and rust-free. This will have a major bearing on the quality of the finish. Using nothing but a dry trowel, applying plenty of pressure to the wall, simply go over your entire area in the same pattern as previously mentioned. With this phase, you are no longer adding any plaster. This process smooths off the two coats we have already applied. Use a firm grip, with a slight angle on the trowel. Too open and the trowel will remove the plaster off the wall instead of touching it up. If you find you have a hole, merely tuck excess plaster into the hole and go over it like normal to cover it. Just continue to repeat this same process until you have gone over all the areas. Once finished, you should find that your wall and ceiling are looking flat, but they are not yet completely smooth. Having left the walls to dry for 25 minutes, we are now ready for phase 4, which is a wet trowel. What we are doing here is using a wet brush, sprinkling water onto the wall, and running a trowel over the surface to give the wall a nice smooth finish. This will get rid of all lines left by the trowel. Opening the trowel up a fraction, we remove any excess water off the wall. We're going to brush the internal angles of the wall first to get it looking neat, and then we're going to apply the water. Remember to always work in the same pattern as determined in the previous phases, due to the drying time of the plaster. The surplus that you find on the end of your trowel is known as fat. This is existing plaster with additional water mixed into it. This cannot be reused and needs to be thrown away. If you have any holes and you decide to use the fat, it will dry differently, but most importantly, it will become very rough. Always bend your back and apply plenty of pressure on the trowel. Again, brush the internal angles to get it looking neat and slide the trowel across the surface. As you can see, the walls and ceilings are starting to take shape. Now that we're at the end of phase 4, the walls and ceilings are smoother and flatter, and with only 2 stages to complete, we will have our finished wall. Once again, ensure you keep all your equipment clean between each phase. Phase 5 is the same as Phase 4, with the exception of the way we implement the brush. In Phase 4 we added the water by sprinkling it across the wall. Now though, in Phase 5, the brush is used to paint the water onto the wall. We are now bringing the walls and ceiling to a smooth and flat finish ready for decorating. By adding water, the plaster naturally becomes smoother, so you can apply paint straight onto it, without needing to sand it down or treat it in any way. As you work through this phase, continue to clean and wet your trowel regularly as you continue to go over all the areas. Less water is applied this time, because sprinkling produces a lot of excess water. Use the brush to paint the water on the wall, spreading it over the wall with no excess water forming. Employing the same amount of pressure as before, we run the trowel over the wall in the same way that we did for the last phase. The 6th and final phase is the dry trowel. All you're going to do now is open up the face of the trowel and apply a large amount of pressure onto the surface. This is to achieve a final polish ready for decorating. At this phase, you should not be getting any surplus plaster on your trowel, as the walls and ceiling should be completely dry. If you are, then you need to stop and wait for the plaster to dry properly. Now, following our normal pattern, once the ceiling is complete, carry on and complete the final phase on the walls. When you have finished the ceiling and walls, you need to leave them set for at least 2 days before you begin decorating. So, to recap on our final 4 phases: 1. Phase 3. The first dry trowel. Go over the entire area in the normal pattern to smooth the coat. 2. Clean your tools and leave the plaster for 25 minutes. 3. Phase 4. The first wet trowel. Flick water onto the wall using the brush, and use the trowel to remove any excess water following the normal pattern. Brush internal angles as necessary. 4. Remove all fat. Do not reuse this surplus material. 5. Clean your equipment. 6. Phase 5. The second wet trowel. Use the brush to paint water onto the wall with less water this time, and run the trowel over the wall in the normal pattern. 7. Clean and wet the trowel regularly and continue to smooth the plaster to complete Phase 5. 8. Clean your equipment before the final phase. 9. Phase 6. The second dry trowel. Run the dry trowel to get the final polish with no excess. Note, if there is any excess, leave the plaster to dry for that little bit longer before running the final dry trowel. And finally, allow 48 hours drying time for the plaster before attempting any decorating. So, by following all of these stages, you should now have a complete job with all walls and ceilings plastered with a smooth, clean finish. By using the techniques and stages demonstrated in this DVD, you should find you can now take on pretty much any internal plastering project. We hope this DVD has helped you. There are a wide variety of other titles available to help you with other skills. If you would like more advanced and intensive training, Able Skills provide a 5-day and City and Guilds courses in their spacious unit in Dartford, Kent. Call us on 0808 100 3245 for more information. All the tools used in this DVD are available to buy on our website at www.abletools.co.uk. Welcome to Able Skills, a City and Guilds, NIC, EIC and EAL approved training centre. We now offer courses to suit everyone with an interest in building, from enthusiastic DIYers through to experienced tradesmen or women looking to learn an additional skill or to refine their techniques on one of our advanced courses. Are you looking to learn new skills in building? Maybe for that DIY project that you've been putting off? Maybe to use the skills in your existing trade or to start a new one. Whatever your reason, courses with Able Skills will give you the start you need. Our courses get you using the tools and developing the skills right from the start, under the careful guidance of our instructors, who all have years of experience in their trades and who are NVQ, City and Guilds, CITB accredited, and who are assessors in their own right. With our small training group sizes, you can get all the practical advice and personal attention you need to master each task and build your confidence. The friendly group atmosphere on our courses helps everyone to feel at ease, even if you are a complete novice. At our new, spacious centre in Dartford, Kent, you can learn or improve your skills in plumbing, brickwork, plastering, tiling, and electrical installation. Our plumbing course will show you what to do to tackle everyday plumbing tasks and emergency repairs around the house, avoiding you having to pay someone else and saving you money. The course covers subjects from fitting a simple washer, laying and bending copper pipes, how to use push-fit plastic pipe for hot and cold services, pressure testing, fitting and soldering joints, preparing pipework, fitting complete bathroom suites, baths, sinks, showers and toilets, including running waste systems from each. You will also have an understanding of running pipework for central heating systems, running hot and cold water to your combi boiler, and fitting radiators, changing tanks and cylinders, replacing motorized valves for heating and hot water systems, running the flow and return to the radiators from the boiler, and fit taps to sinks. This course is designed to give you training in everyday plumbing and covers changes to building regulations, therefore also advising you of changes to existing plumbing methods. Training on heating systems contains details on energy saving and other environmental and money saving issues. We demonstrate and teach about all existing and new plumbing materials. With these skills, you will have the confidence to take on everyday projects around the house and develop your expertise. We also offer an advanced plumbing course, which is designed to teach you how to carry out plumbing installations around the house. You will be taught how to fit or replace cold water tanks and fit or replace hot water cylinders. We will show you how to run hot and cold services from the loft to the bathroom and kitchen. The course also demonstrates how to fit central heating flow and return pipes from the boiler to the radiators, fitting central heating pumps and motorised valves, and how to run pipework to a combi boiler. The course content also covers use of water filters and conditioners, and awareness of water bylaws. We will explain how to alter soil pipes and how to clear blockages on drains, waste pipes and guttering.
My name is Holmes Rogers, and I've just spent 9 years in the army, and I'm just doing this as part of my resettlement. I'm not doing it to go into the trade either. I'm just doing it so that I've got a good idea of basic plumbing skills, and I'm doing a tiling course next week as well, so I can do minor jobs around the house, and maybe if I go into the buy-to-let industry I can do basic jobs myself as well to save a bit of cash, and to see when people come in and suggest doing some work whether it's actually correct or not. There's lots of hands-on. You make a lot of your mistakes here. I think that's obviously the whole point of the course, because you'll learn much quicker if you see doing it, how to do it wrong, and then you just rectify it. So we spent a lot of time redoing a few things that we've got wrong, but we've got it right now, which is excellent. And I think it's good with people that have come with a basic knowledge, or even just tinkering around with DIY. This gives a very good structured way of looking at systems, and certainly for putting in a hot water system now, I can understand how the system works, albeit very basically. I understand how the system works, so if something slightly goes wrong in the house, it'd be hopefully very easy to rectify that problem.
It's one of those courses that you progress as quick as you want to on, which has been fine for me because I've got my sitting guilds, which I did 20 years ago, and I'm just getting my plumbing skills up to scratch again. Yes, like I say, it's been quite good. The instructors sort of let you progress at your own speed, give you handy hints, stuff like that. So it's been very good for me. Yeah, started doing sweating joints again and got it pressure tested to make sure that you're doing it right. Bending, using the benders again, obviously for your copper pipe. And then on day 2 in the afternoon you get in the bay and start putting up the rads and the bathroom in. I haven't done any of the other courses, but a friend of mine's done the tiling course, and it was him that put me onto this place in the first place, and so it's through recommendation anyway.
Yeah, that's been really good, been very helpful from the instructors. I mean, I've done stuff 16 years ago, so this was just basically refreshing myself, getting myself up to the scratch where I was 16 years ago, to be honest, so it's been very helpful. I'd like to do the plastering one, and maybe the tiling one as well, but that's obviously a bit further down the line, but yeah, certainly interested in doing some others. Yeah, no, the tutors are very good, very helpful. They come along and sort of help you if you're a bit stuck. Shows you how to do a few of the bending part. I think that's the theory side of it. It's more the harder part rather than the practical, just knowing what goes where, and so that's where they've been more helpful.
Plastering is one of those skills which many people, including competent DIYers, shy away from, preferring to call in a professional at considerable expense. That's fine for major jobs, and if you can afford it. But why not see what you can do for yourself, whether this is for your own project, or maybe for a career change? You will learn how to cut and fix plasterboard to walls and ceilings, to cut and fix angle beads, to tape joints, and how to prepare surfaces before plastering. You will be shown how to use bonding and finishing plaster, ensuring a flat surface for decorating. We will teach you how to skim walls and ceilings. You will also be taught how to repair damaged plaster, and also how to render external walls using sand and cement. We try to cover every aspect of plastering that we can, and feel confident that after spending time with us, you will be ready to tackle everyday plastering requirements. The atmosphere is pleasant and encouraging, and people generally find the time spent with us to be an enjoyable one. We now also offer an advanced plastering course for people looking to increase their speed and technique. This course concentrates on cutting and setting beads, bonding, skimming, and also repair work. This is available over 5 days or 2 weekends. If you have some plastering knowledge, why not try our 2-day skimming course set over a single weekend? This course concentrates solely on skimming techniques. Tools and equipment will be fully supplied, explained and demonstrated.
Hi, Tony Smith. Served 22 years in the Army. I'm now here doing a 2-week plastering course, the first week being the beginners and second week hopefully being the more intense course. What I'd like to do is do a little bit of renovation on properties, initially my own house and then moving on to other properties with friends and family. Value for money, it would obviously be better if it was free, but sadly it's not free, but it is a very good value for money. You learn a lot, it's hands-on, which you need to be doing at this stage of the game. Tutors are very good, very knowledgeable, a lot of experience behind them, and they're always there on hand to give you any help should you require any. Yes, I've travelled from all the way up north, and it's approximately 250 miles at weekends as I travel, and on a daily basis travelling 120 to 140 miles for to stay with friends. So to me it's definitely worth it to travel that far.
Able Skills Tiling course is designed to offer you a good understanding of the practical skills involved in tiling. We will demonstrate and explain how to set out your tiling job. We will take you through floor tiling, wall tiling, tiling work surfaces, tiling splashbacks, and explain the different adhesives used. We will show you all the ways of cutting tiles using wet tile cutters, dry tile cutters, tile scribes, tile snips, and tile saws. We will demonstrate decorative tiling involving borders, diamonds and patterns, and also show you how to cut around windows and reveals. We will teach you to cope with tiling difficult areas, around sinks, electrical sockets, and boxed-in pipes. You will also learn how to grout and polish, and how to use silicone sealants. We will cover every aspect of tiling, and we feel confident that after spending time with us, you will be ready to tackle everyday tiling requirements. Whether you're planning to do your own bathroom or kitchen, or looking at tiling as a possible career. Either way, this course has a lot to offer you. In addition, we also offer an advanced tiling course which builds upon the knowledge gained on our intensive course. You will be taught how to deal with even more difficult obstacles such as shower attachments, tiling behind existing sink pedestals, behind radiators and around toilet waste soil pipes. We aim to improve your speed and precision, at the same time incorporating different materials, including mosaics. We also demonstrate the correct procedure required when you need to remove and replace existing damaged tiles with new ones. All the tools and equipment you need are supplied, explained and demonstrated with an emphasis on safe and efficient practice. As on all our courses, trained instructors with a wealth of practical knowledge and experience gained in the trade are there to answer any questions, show you the proper techniques if you get stuck, and generally to encourage you. This way you learn faster and grow in confidence in your skills as the days progress.
Right, my name's Danny, I'm doing a 5-day basic tiling course. It's been blinding. I've done a lot more than what I thought I'd be doing. You know, in the last few days, what surprised myself. Started off doing the kitchen area, you know, going up the walls, and at the moment I'm just doing a bathroom floor. Yeah, I'd like to do a profession, so I'm going to come back in a couple of weeks and do the advanced course. If they'll have me back. Yeah, you feel like pretty much like it's a one-on-one course. I mean, there's only half a dozen of us on the course there, so you do get like, you know, you feel like you're getting undivided attention. No, I just think like it's blinding course, prices and all that. You think once you've done it, knock a couple of jobs out, you've got your money back, haven't you?
My name is Brown, Alman Brown. I'm doing a tiling course for 5 days. Basic, but hope to go on to the advanced later on. I find it very interesting, learning quite a lot. Wall tiling, cutting around plugs, and at this present time some floor tiling, and cutting around sinks and toilet and so forth. I think it's good value because the others are more expensive than this, and I'm quite satisfied with what I'm getting at the present time.
My name's Michael Falls. I'm doing a tiling course from Birmingham. done the course because obviously I've got a lot of tiling to do in the house, and hopefully to do jobs for other people. Well, there's no other tiling courses in Birmingham which I could find, and Able Skills look the best place to come to.
Welcome to Able Skills bricklaying course. On our bricklaying course you will learn to set out building lines, to use bricks as well as blocks, how to ensure your walls are square and vertical, how to build a corner, a pillar and a cavity wall. Also you will learn the different types of bricklaying bonds and be shown how to do pointing for facework. We will demonstrate how to put in a damp course and how to put in lintels and windows. This course is designed to provide you with plenty of general building knowledge to ensure that when you leave the training centre, you are confident in all areas of brickwork. The course fee of £300 will soon repay itself in all the highly practical and enjoyable jobs you will be equipped to take on. Able Skills also offers an advanced bricklaying course which will teach you how to build more ornate brickwork with finesse. We will show you how to angle bricks by cutting them with different tools so that you can create an even joint throughout that piece of work. You will be shown how to build archways, conservatory bases, swoops, ornate pillars, bird's beak detail, soldier course, spiral pillars and fireplaces. The course is also suitable for ground workers looking to build boxes and manholes. Able Skills is happy to advise you on any building project you are undertaking if you bring your plans or drawings along.
Been building a variety of walls, cavity walls, archways, pillars, piers, a whole variety of stuff. Yeah, hopefully I'll be getting the City and Guilds level 1 qualification in bricklaying.
Doing a five-day bricklaying course. Just the basics. It's just purely for doing things at home, DIY, and a bit of gardening and everything else really. I've really enjoyed the course and it's taught me a lot more than I already knew. So mostly it's actually getting things level and all the 10mm gaps and everything. When I finish this course, I'll be comfortable doing the jobs what I usually do at home and that a bit more than what the finished effect will be a lot better. So.
The course is very good. It's very practical, down to earth. If you've got some ideas of how you want to do things, the tutors give you guidance. They also show you some rather nifty ways of doing some brickwork, which is perhaps away from the normal sort of straight stuff. Very good, very intuitive, and the guys that actually teach you, obviously they've got good skill, because if you don't do things correctly, they actually show you what happens if you don't do it right, and how you do it right, and when you do it right, it's wonderful.
Are you a kitchen fitter or gas installer that in the past has always carried out your own electrical work, but under the latest government legislation have had to stop? Have you been carrying out electrical installation work but do not have a recognised electrical qualification? Or maybe you are looking to start a new career in the electrical industry? At Able Skills, we can now deliver the VRQ Level 2 Domestic Electrical Installers Certificate. This gives candidates a nationally recognised electrical qualification, allowing them to become a qualified supervisor of firms that are registered with approved Part P competent person schemes. In our newly fitted out electrical training area, you will be shown how to use the latest Part P approved test equipment and carry out fault finding on our test rigs. The courses are demanding and intensive, but under the careful guidance of our highly qualified instructors, using our small class sizes and fully trained assessors and verifiers, you will get all the practical and technical advice that you will need to master each of the 17 modules and build your confidence. Once successfully completed, the holder will be able to apply to register on the Domestic Installers Scheme, and on acceptance, will be able to install, test, and self-certificate their own work. We are also offering a 2-day course for candidates who have a limited knowledge and want to improve their electrical skills to allow them to go on to the 5-day VRQ2 course. In addition, to meet the minimum requirements of the building regulations, all those carrying out domestic electrical installations need only to achieve Unit 1 of the VRQ, Applicable Building Regulations for Domestic Electrical Installation. This provides the understanding of the requirements of the building regulations which are relevant to organisations undertaking domestic electrical installation. This is a one-day intensive course for qualified electricians only.
I've done other courses with the intention to be able to do various things within the sort of domestic industry. Electrical one is quite serious, obviously. A lot of potential danger in that, so I want to make sure I've got it right. I can pass my exam and I'll get accepted by an ICIEC, approved, and I'll be confident enough then, having done this course. I've done other courses at the centre, which I found very interesting and worthwhile. All the instructors are a good crowd, well informed and knowledgeable of what they're teaching you, and in 1 week it's surprising what you can learn. And hopefully Friday I'll pass my exam and get my qualification, move forward through electrical domestic installation.
I'm actually doing the electrical course. I've done electrical work prior to coming here. It's one of the government requirements that you take the Part B to carry on doing the electrical work that we do, and to come up to the requirements that the government are telling they need doing to self-certify, which a lot of electricians are not doing, including myself, because we just haven't kept up with probably the regulations. So it's a really well worthwhile course to come on if you do electrical work, and it's a thing that you've got to do in the near future, like, sort of thing, you know. Oh, it's been very good so far, yeah, very good, like, you know, very informative, like, you know, lots of things, because you do the work as such, you're told, and you sort of, in your mind you think, well, why that, and you're doing it another way, but then at the end of it, it either makes sense or it don't, but you are learning as you go. And John, the guy who's teaching, he's very good with it, like, sort of thing, because he's fully trained with all the electrical work and that and more, and it's been very informative, like, you know, so I'm really pleased to come on the course.
Why not try Able Skills Multi-Skills course, which enables you to train in the 4 courses of plastering, plumbing, tiling and bricklaying. Or maybe you would choose to train in 2 or 3 subjects and then include an advanced option. Whatever your aim, Able Skills will arrange these courses to suit you. You can train in a 4-week block, or you can spread these courses over a longer period to accommodate your existing commitments. There is now a greater demand for people to be multi-skilled in their work. Companies seem to prefer to employ people with knowledge in several areas, so the multi-skilled option may suit you if you are looking for a career in this area. Able Skills can now offer you a 6-week training course in any of our subjects, which will provide you with an entry-level City and Guilds qualification. Further details on these can be obtained by contacting the staff at Able Skills. Our position, just south of the QE2 bridge on the M25, makes us easy to get to, with suitable parking available. Rail links are excellent too, with connections from Charing Cross, Cannon Street, Victoria and London Bridge direct to Dartford Station, which is just a 5-minute walk from the centre. We donate £1 to Great Ormond Street Hospital Children's Charity for every course booked. If weekdays are unsuitable due to work commitments, we do offer most courses split over 2 consecutive weekends for convenience. Course content remains the same, with 5 days condensed into 4. In all courses, you will be involved at every stage and will be participating throughout. It is therefore recommended that you bring suitable clothing, and for your own safety, steel toe-capped footwear is essential. After you have trained with us, we are happy for you to contact the centre at any time by phone or email, should you need clarification or advice on any work you're attempting. These courses are open to anyone, regardless of gender or status. Concessionary fees will also be considered for unemployed persons. If there is anything more that you would like to know, or if you want to book a course, please phone us on our free phone number 0808 100 3245. We can be contacted 7 days a week. Alternatively, visit our website www.ableskills.co.uk. Our reputation means that people are prepared to travel a long way. We can provide our own, comfortable, local accommodation on request. See our website or contact staff for details. If you are looking at new career possibilities after serving in the armed forces, we offer resettlement courses. Fax over your MOD form 1746 to 01322 280 301. Able Skills has their own tool website. If you're interested in purchasing tools, please feel free to visit www.abletools.co.uk or contact Able Skills staff on 01322 280 202.